Hey people, hey, how you doing? This is the Dougie Stone Show. Goes out on Dougie Stone Radio, that's D-U-G-G-Y-S-T-O-N-E, Dougie Stone Radio. Freaking global, baby! Oh yes, and this is, as you know, the Dougie Stone Show. Oh yeah. The Dougie Stone Show. Yeah, so today's show I've got a great individual. Her name's Teresa Taylor from the US. She promotes and supports artists across the globe. She's freaking global, like Dougie Stone Radio, isn't she? Oh yes, she is. Anyway, what we talked about today on this show and what is really interesting is a number of things. Yeah, what we spoke about, wanted to know a bit about what she does in the music world, with her promoting her artists in the States, South Africa. And more importantly than that, I wanted to understand what it's like to be a black female living in the United States and where some of the terminology comes from. You know, the use of the N-words and things like that. So, yeah, it's an open and honest and frank conversation. Go and check Teresa Taylor out. She is from Global Family. She's always doing Facebook Live, so just go and check her out. If you're an artist and you want to know a bit more about her, just speak to her. She's brilliant. And anyway, this is the Dougie Stone Show, going out across the planet on Spotify, Tuning Radio, Dougie Stone Radio, iTunes, I Love Radio, going absolutely everywhere. Anyway, let's get on with the show, people. Yeah. Right, people. So like I said, on today's show, got an amazing individual that we've been wanting to talk to each other for ages, but both been extremely busy, both sides of the pond. But today, I'm fortunate I've managed to pin her down, not literally, but in the audio version of that, and get her on the show. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, sure. First, hello to everyone in Dougie Stone Radio. I am Teresa Taylor from the U.S., and I am with Global Family and a few other companies as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And for people that are out there and obviously might not follow you, might not see you, because obviously we've all got different fan base and things like that, Teresa does a lot of amazing work within the music industry, supporting emerging artists, not just in the States, but in Africa and in Jamaica. And that's where a couple of the artists that I've come to love have come from. You know, like, I forgot what the South African lads are called now. My brain's frazzled this morning. But yeah, you're doing a lot of work for these artists, aren't you, with what you do, really?
Yes, I do. It comes from my childhood. I grew up in the music industry with my father in Chicago, and it was commonplace. You know, it was very common to be in the studio. We owned record stores, so I got to know music firsthand, and I just came back to it. I came back to my first love, and my father was a musician as well. He was a promoter, producer, and yeah, we were affiliated with the Jackson family, with so many legends that came from Gary and Chicago. So it just seemed normal. You know what I'm saying? It just seemed normal to follow that path and to take it into the future. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, and all too often when you talk to people that are in the music industry, there's normally some sort of influence from somewhere else, like family members, and that's a classic one there. That, you know, your parents have been in the industry, and like you say, it becomes normal. It's a bit like in business if you ask anyone who's in business, in their own business, you tend to find that the parents have been in business, so it's sort of a learn influence, isn't it? So your love of music has come from that. It's just like the same as someone cooking an apple pie or, you know, a meatloaf, and you see your gran doing it or your mum doing it, and you'd end up replicating that recipe. So what you're doing is the same thing, but with music.
Exactly. It's so commonplace, especially in Chicago, to love music. I mean, we have so many greats that came from here, the Jennifer Hudsons, the Commons. I could go on and on. Sam Cooke. I mean, a lot of the older generation the legends. My father, he knew them. So he was always in a studio, or he was always, on tour with some of the greats. And so once he retired from the business, I just took it over, but I took it into the internet stage, which is totally different. Back in the day, they would have to go, and promote their music, at the stations and so forth. Whereas now, the internet, you can become famous overnight just by one video. So, so it's, it always transitions, and I can imagine that one of my children or my grandchildren will follow the same path, because they're always surrounded by music. They know all of the underground now just by listening to my shows, and I didn't even think about that. Like, wait a minute. Yeah, they love my artist. And that is how we leave a legacy. This is what I say. I'm always about legacy building. It's what I do is not really for me or my children. It's actually for my grandchildren as well, to set a precedent in the music industry, something that's good, that they can say, wow, they left this for us to follow the blueprint, And because if we don't start now, I don't want to see where music is going to end up in the next 20 years if we don't change the face of music and bring goodness back to the planet. That is what I always say about music, is frequency and vibrations. You can either put out bad music, you can put out music that drives people crazy, or you could put out healing music. And that's what we try to do in the Global Family, is we find the best of the best in every country, and we just allow them to shine. Yeah, and it's sort of like building a bridge that goes all over the world. Yeah. And because of what we've done, and I say this very humbly too, because I didn't know that the Global Family would be this huge. It's less than 1 year, just like Dougie Stone, which is amazing. But it's just amazing to see all the artists that work together, the artists and the producers from different countries that are now working together because they listen to your show, or they listen to my show, or they listen to Larry Nelson from the D. It's such a bridge, and it's a bridge that's been made by love, and it's a great thing. It really is.
And I concur with all that, and you're right. And I did a show on it the other day, and basically what I was saying is, if whatever, I do a business show, and on the business show basically said, whatever industry you're in, go and collaborate with people that are in the same industry. Or I was talking to an artist yesterday, not a guy who draws and paints. I said, you need to find another artist doing something similar to you that's in Detroit or in New York or in Los Angeles, because he's not a direct competitor of yours, because you'll have a customer base on this side of the pond, he'll have a customer base on that side of the pond, but together you could potentially make something really good together, because together you're going to be stronger, because his followers will be your followers will be his followers, and you start linking. And do you know, it's and I think what we've created has come from love and trust and affection, because I've linked up with Larry O, with you, with Underground Sounds, with Detroit Unplugged, with Wormy over in Holland, in Australia. Not from, and this is the same as everyone else has done, none of us have joined together thinking, how much can we make from this person? How much are they going to pay me for my input? Everybody's gone, here I am, my arms are open, come and enjoy it with us, rock with us, and everyone's been very trusting, and it has been with love. And I think if for anything across the world, if we could just replicate what we are doing into society, in a general thing, rather than just being music, how wonderful would the world be? Do you know what I mean? It's amazing what we're doing. It really is. And that, not just me, but everybody, what everybody's doing is superb.
I saw this just recently, especially on my platform. There are actually tracks out now, and we have 25L Clan. It was started in Australia by Daniel Joel Flint. He's also head of La Familia Arts and Designs in Australia. But they asked me to be their manager for 25L, and I'm like, okay, I'm not sure. I've got a lot on my plate. But what happened as a result after the last year or so, now we have members from different countries. We have, and I know you heard the introduction, our little theme song, 250 theme song, but that was made by William Perry. William Perry is from New Zealand, but we also have artists from the UK, which is the Alumni. We have others from the US. It is so remarkable to have one music group with so many different artists from all over the different countries, and they all come together in love. It's a big family, but it's an international family. And then I always tell artists, you can be local, that's great, but if you want to be global, then get at the Global Family, get at the Kirk Pickstones, get at the Larry O's, because we're not local, because this music thing, it's so important to the world, not just one city. It's important to every country. When I play, people from Flavor Music, which is my music group in Jamaica, that was formed because of Mr. Flavor. And Mr. Flavor, he's tearing up the charts in Jamaica. But he started introducing the Global Family to other artists in Jamaica, the Queen Kamarlas, the Berrybacks, and all of these people actually do so much for their own countries. I mean, they do free concerts, to help the children get out of the drugs and get out, of the gangs. And that's what they do. They travel with their music around their cities just to heal their cities. And that's why, I told Mr. Flavor, because he said, it's really hard, to find studios. They're so expensive and so forth. I said, well, why don't we build a studio in Kingston? He said, wow, do you think we can do it? I said, yes. I said, that way, all of the great artists there that may not have a lot of money, they'll be able to record, they'll be able, to shoot videos and whatever, but we have to build something, but we have to build it together. And if we do this together, if all of the artists come together, you will be amazed at how you can change your city. It is amazing to me, Kirk, that we have cities and some artists don't even know other artists in their cities. That boggles me. I can think of, let's say, Michigan. Okay, I'll know 400 artists in Michigan, but they won't know each other. That makes no sense to me. And that's why I said I have to do something.
Yes.
It starts with one person, with you, with me, with the next person. If you just take a step, if you're a catalyst for change, then you can change your city. And that's what I'm about with the Global Family, with Flavor Music. It's about changing the face of music and bringing and building and bridging together,
Yep.
That's what we're on. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I love it. And I know I've linked up with loads of artists now, and people have started to gravitate towards us from various platforms, from yourself, from Larry, from Detroit, and they've started to come to us and send us music, get some great music. And what I've been really taken aback by, and I think, well, it's right really, because I'm the same. So give Detroit, I'd say what, Larry for an example, and DJ Killer Kev, those two individuals as an example. People I have never met. They've grown up in a different side of the world. They've got a different social background to me. And the affection that I've got from them and the genuine brotherhood, if you like, or love or family or whatever. They say you're family, you're now family. I've never met them. We've never shook hands. Yet I feel that because they've got the same ethos and they've got the same values that I've got and you've got, which I think is why it works. And what I also like about all this, Teresa, is for far too long the industry at the minute is a very difficult place for an artist, because it used to be bad back in the day because you used to have the A&R man and a woman, and it was controlled by the big network, by the Sonys of this world, and you only got through if they wanted you. So it was difficult to get through, and you had to have a lot of money. The issue you've got now is that it's that open for you to create. You could create your own music in your bedroom, record it, upload it to a site, job done. Now that's great. So what's happened now is the market is absolutely swamped with music, and so what the artists have an issue with is actually getting noticed by us and by other people. But the good thing about that is it's not in control by the big companies. It's not in control. They're not in. They're not waiting for a Sony Records to release their track or to promote them. So it's. I think that's why the global family and the global network that's emerging is now will start to grow and will outgrow the traditional way music is either discovered and consumed by the customer, by the consumer, by the listener. So I think it's the industry's in a big shake-up at the minute.
I think that has to do with the underground in general. That is why it was created, because people wanted to take back control of their music. They no longer wanted to be slaves. Do you remember when Prince, he put slave on his forehead? You remember that?
Yeah.
And that was for a reason. He was sending a message, a subliminal message saying, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I can't keep selling my soul, to the industry. And your music changes. A lot of times that happens. And people, especially underground, they want to be mainstream so bad, but they don't know what comes with that. And I do a lot of teaching on my station to all artists so that they'll know exactly what comes with going mainstream. I know mainstream artists. I've been in their presence. And the stories that they can tell you, it would boggle your mind. Like, they're so happy that they're out of it now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of very famous people, they don't want to be signed to mainstream because they know what comes with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You've got golden handcuffs, haven't you? Because you've got to. That if you're signed up to a big label, they're going to say, right, we expect 5 albums off you over the next 2 years, and these are all the concerts you're going to do. You're going to be on tour, and also you've got these TV shows to do. And some people might say, yeah, I want that, but you lose control. And we don't want you to do that type of music now. We want you to do that. We don't like that track, and it might be a track that the artist really likes. So yeah, do you want to sell your soul, as it were, for a few pence? For a few pieces of gold.
Yeah. You know what happens is, and you hit it on the head. They control you now. You are no longer a self-contained entity. You belong to thousands of people in your label. And people don't realize when you go from underground to mainstream, guess what? You've got to pay your whole staff now. So before, you may have only had a few people that had your back. But now you've got everyone. You've got your production crew. You've got your dancers. You've got your lighting. You've got your A&R. You've got this, you've got that, you got that. And people wonder all the time, well, they sold so many millions of songs. How do they not have money? Such as the Tony Braxtons. There's so many that went bankrupt. And they even tell you, do you know how much it costs to put on one show? Like, they make most of their money touring, okay? Yeah. Now it's different. Yeah. Okay, whereas before you could go in, you could buy your CDs or whatever. Now you buy it online, okay? So they're going to take a little portion out of it as well. But it's not what everyone thinks that it is. It's really not. I tell people all the time, stay independent, stay an indie artist, because once you sign those papers, let's say, I'm just going to give you a round figure. Let's say your concert, unless you're a Jay-Z or whatever, your concert raked in $1 million. Guess how much you're going to get from that? You better hope that you get 10% of that. Seriously, because you have so much overhead now, traveling, so on and so forth. Before you get your money, your label is going to take whatever was used for your tour. And then you're going to get a percentage afterwards. So it's not all peaches and cream like some people think.
Yeah, exactly. I get it. I get it 100%. And I think, do you want to be make a decent, like you say, as an indie artist, you could be successful and not, successful in your own right, and people know who you are, and earn a really nice living and do stuff when you want to do it, how you want to do it. And I think that's the best way to be. So when you put a local concert on, yeah, you might be right. You might You might not be bringing a million. You might only bring a few thousand in. But guess what? You'll probably get most of that few thousand yourself. And it's what people want. And not the other thing as well, Teresa. Not everybody, and I think this is a thing in society in general, where I think a lot of kids growing up now could get very disappointed because they see the Kardashians of this world. They see the people, the big sports stars. They see the big artists out there and think it's attainable. And out of the billions of people on the planet, those levels of success to that magnitude is only afforded to a very small amount of people. So the chances of you, not saying that people can't do it and don't, if that's what you want to go for it. But the chances of you going from where you are now to that level of success is really tough. It's really tough to get there.
It really is. And I'm going to tell you, I call it 10 minutes of fame. Think about some of the groups that were really famous in the 80s. You don't see them anymore. No. A lot of them have dismantled. A lot of them, you may see them on Legends tours or on a few award shows, but they're not working consistently now. And let me tell you what happened back in the day. They sold over a lot of their royalties as well. And guess what? Artists are still doing that now. They will sign up, and it is so crazy. I just found this out not too long ago. They will sign up, and I'm not going to mention the names, with certain distributing companies. They're actually signing over their rights to their songs, and they don't know it. And then they get a little percentage of whatever they sell, on iTunes or whatever. They're not getting a proper percentage, but they wanted to get their music out so bad, but they signed up with the wrong companies. So you really have to study. Music is not just about the music that you play. It's a business as well. Yeah. I always say it's going to be either a business or it's going to be a hobby. So any artist that comes to me, I say, is this a hobby for you? Because if it is, I'm not going to put as much effort into building your career. But if this is a business for you, then you got to know everything about that business. You really do. You have to know paperwork. You have to have a lawyer, a music lawyer. You have to know so much if you are really serious about this business. And I'm sorry to say it, but a lot of people that I see that are out here now, in 20 years, they're going to have to work a job. I'm sorry, they're going to have to work a job because they don't have the right street team. They don't have the right lawyers. They don't have the things that they need. I'm just going to put it that way, Yeah.
No, I get it. And that's why that's why they've got people like you that can help them along the way, and people like DJ Killer Kev who know, who can promote them and get them out there. And you're right, you've just got to be very careful. Don't sell your soul up just because you think that's going to get you successful. And I think it's a shame really, because there is some brilliant artists out there who are pumping out some great tracks, some great music, and it's a shame if they get ripped off and then, like you say, end up not having anything at the end of it. And it's a shame really, but I think we'll carry on doing what we're doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next 12-18 months and where we take it from where we are now, because you're on a very similar journey to us at Dougie Stone Radio, similar sort of time frame, and Larry started doing his shows a little bit before us. And it's amazing where if you look back at some of those early days, early videos, early promo things that were going on, it's worlds apart. No, I mean, I was looking at you doing one the other.
I remember the very first shows. That's Larry Nelson from the D. He has a group, a Facebook page as well, a group page. But he does a Global Freestyle Friday. And when he first started a year ago, it was just maybe 100 or so. And I just happened to tune in. I said, "Oh, I like this guy. He's real cool." And then we started coming on the lives, and we started meeting each other. And then a year later, there are hundreds of thousands, and the same with you. And I'm like, wow, when you do something that you love, see, that's the thing. If you do something for money, a lot of times in this business, it's not going to succeed. But if you do it for the love of the underground or the love of music itself, I promise you, there's nothing you can't accomplish. Speaking of DJ Killer Kev, there are things that I didn't know in the beginning. I'm still learning. So a lot of times I tell artists, if you don't know something, ask. Don't be afraid, because that's your brand. Talk to someone that knows what they're doing. A lot of times there's a saying in the U.S., the game is to be told, not sold. And some people, they say it backwards. The game is to be sold, told, not sold, sold, not told. I like to tell the game, because I feel as though whatever I can do to keep great music going in this industry, I'm going to do it. I'm not, a lot of us don't charge. A lot of us do charge. It doesn't matter. But I try to give as much information as I can to the young artists so that they will have what they need. Speaking of DJ Killer Kev, I literally talk to Kev probably every other day. He's my official best friend. But not only is he a great person like Larry O, he answers all the questions that I need for my artist, and I know I drive him crazy sometimes, or he'll drive me crazy, but we have this chemistry. We have this brother sisterhood, that I can go to him. He can come to me, Sometimes when I'm going crazy and I don't know what to do, he'll say, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Okay, tell your artist this, that, this, and that. He doesn't have to do that, you see? But if we start sharing the love, it's so easy. It's so easy, and it feels good to help people, And I thank Kev so much. Literally, I think he just called me at probably 12 midnight, but I'm sleeping or he's sleeping. But him, Detroit Unplugged, all of the promoters, the underground could not run if there were not, the underground shows like Detroit Unplugged and DJ Powerhouse. There's so many that give that platform to the artists, and without them, a lot of the artists would not even be on your show. So it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's wonderful. It's really good. And I know it's great. And you're right. What you're saying there about the industry, about doing something you're passionate about, don't follow the money. I say that all the time in my business shows and when I'm talking to people. Do something you're passionate about. Don't think, I want to do that business because I can make a lot of money in that. Because as soon as you hit as soon as you get a smack on the nose, let's say, like in life, you're gonna stop. But if you're that passionate about it and you get a smack on the nose, you're gonna keep going for it because you're so passionate about it. And that's why people fail, because they're chasing the money, they're chasing the dollar, or whatever you want to call it, and it's wrong. So that's wonderful. What you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's also, a lot of people don't know that, but everyone has different sides to them. I do a lot for the music industry, but that's in my blood. But believe it or not, I actually teach. I mean, that's what's so funny. I teach on history. I teach on spirituality, and I have a documentary out. It's not mine, but a young lady, her name was Darvik and Luna. They actually wanted to do a documentary on what's happening in the African American community with the women. What's going on with us? Why are we losing so many of, we call ourselves sisters, to drugs and to abuse and so on and so forth. And we created a 5-hour documentary, and that's on YouTube. It's called If My Sister Is in the Hood, That's Where I Need to Be. That is one of my greatest legacies, besides my children and the Global Family, is that we shared our stories over that 5 hours.
What's that?
It talks about. Yes, go ahead.
What's that called again, Teresa? Because we need the link of that on this for this show.
Sure. You can go to YouTube, and we also have a Facebook page. It's called If My Sister Is in the Hood, That's Where I Need to Be. I believe there are seven sisters, and we're women of color. We noticed that there was so much going on that our women were not acting like queens anymore. They were lost. And so we had to address it with our stories. It starts off with a young lady that was almost bludgeoned or macheted to death by her husband. Then there was another that was sexually molested most of her life. Then there was another that was on drugs, and her mother was on drugs. My story was my ex was in the military. I was stationed overseas in England, Bury St. Edmunds.
Wow.
That's where
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we were stationed in Lakenheath and Mildenhall Air Force Base. It was during Desert Storm, and how I literally became catatonic because my husband was gone and he was fighting a war, and he was gone for a year, almost 2 years. And so I had to deal with that. I had to deal with, and I didn't have my family there. So it was the worst time of my life, but I had to share that experience of how I survived, the bomb threats and your husband going away for a year and being in a strange country with no family. And so we had, I believe, 7 different stories. And believe it or not, you talked about MC Wormy and Lulu. I didn't know that Lulu had actually watched the video. And so she did an interview as well. It was an online interview on Facebook. And I mentioned the documentary, and she broke out in tears. I said, "What's going on here?" And she says, "I saw the documentary, and your stories, they were so powerful." And she went on to talk a little bit, about her own experiences as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that someone in another country had watched it, and she was a radio personality. I mean, I knew her. I knew, MC Wormy. I didn't know. And she broke down in tears. And I knew right then that my living was not in vain. I knew that this would be my legacy long after I'm gone. What I teach to the people, not just the music part, but what I teach to the people, that's what's going to endure into the next generations. And I'm very, very proud of that documentary.
Yeah, you should be. I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch that, and when this goes onto Mixcloud or onto the podcast, I'll get all the links off yourself, and I'll put them in the show notes so people will be able to. If you listen to this now on iTunes or on Mixcloud or wherever, in the show notes you'll be able to get to links. So send me them afterwards, Teresa. And I think it's. I want to talk to you, Dave. It's twofold, and I mentioned at the start, before the show, that I want to talk about what you were doing, and it's great that you've moved into that. Talking naturally about that sisterhood in Sisters in the Hood, because as a white male living in the UK, I am really intrigued. I'm saddened by what's gone on in history, and it's interesting that you teach history as well. I really want to understand what it's like to be a black American. And I hate using the word anyway, because you know what I mean. But I use the word black American, living in the States. What's it like? I know we've had some conversations in the past, and I take people as I find them, Teresa. I don't care what the sexuality is, where their ethnic background is, what religion they're into. If they're a vegan or they eat meat. It doesn't bother me. I take people. I can be quite. It's on and off for me. It's pardon the pun, but it's a black and white. You're either yes or no, or you know what I mean. It's like I like you or I don't like you. You fit into my social group or you don't fit into my social group, as in your ethics and the way you are. So I believe that I'm not a rake. You know what I mean? It's difficult to look at someone sometimes and. There's stereotypic. I used to work for a Mexican company, so I have interacted with people from all over the planet, from people in Mexico through to Spain to France to Germany, and we did a big conference where there was about 150 of us in this hall in France, and we all had to do a stereotypical of our nation. So the Germans got up and did we wear laser holders and we slap our legs and we drink beer. Do you know what I mean? So there's some truth in the stereotype. That's what they were trying to say to us. There's some truth in the stereotypes. Yeah, if you can look past that. But anyway, sorry, I know I've gone on and on about it. But
you're fine.
what I really want to understand is, and I want to get this out because I don't believe in oppression. I hate when people have had adversity, and that's what my podcast is about. It's about dyslexia, business, and adversity. And I think from adversity, sometimes comes greatness, and sometimes helps other people. And it's unfortunate if you go through. Anyway, you You tell me, because I don't know, because I've never lived it. I can only surmise.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a very, very quick history lesson because I know you have things to do this morning. We've already talked. I'm going to take you back, and this is what I teach on. It's called Tell Our Vision. Tell Our Vision. What happens is this. Hundreds of years ago, and I have to give you the real history, not what people have been taught,
Correct.
but the real history. When Europeans came from other countries, right? When they came from France, from England, from your country, we all know that a lot of the expeditions were they were funded by Queen Isabella and the king and so forth. What they did when they left their countries, it was to trade, okay? So they went to different ports. Now, they did trade, but they didn't trade. A lot of people are under the misconception that Europeans, they came to the United States with slaves. No, that's a falsity. They traded wherever they went, all right? But when they went to different lands, and this is proven even in Jamaica, when they went to different lands, they saw, wow, they have more here than just cocoa leaves, beans. They have more than just ivory. They have more than just yada, 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 yada. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there were slaves. There were slaves way before the Africans. There were Irish. There were other people that were slaves, all right? Yeah. A lot of the jails were basically dumped, okay? They were dumped, and a lot of the expeditioners, they said, okay, we'll take them with us. So they became indentured servants, okay? And this is true. You can do your history on this. A lot of the countries said, okay, take these prisoners. We're getting rid of them, whatever. Okay, we'll take them. And so the concept was you can work off your servitude. If you come with us on the boat, we take you to another country, you work off your debt to your country, whatever. But as the years went on, we call them settlers. They settled in the United States. They settled in Jamaica. They settled in so many other places. Yeah. But what happened was they brought their religion as well as their laws with them. So we had colonies when the Europeans came to the U.S. We had colonies, right? But this was already this was already a country in itself, okay? But I'm not going to get into the deep history of that. Yeah. But when the British came and they settled, different places in the U.S., they brought their history, they brought their God, I'm just going to keep it real, which was Christianity, and they brought the law. I'm so sorry. I had one of my artists calling. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, I'm so sorry. But so how do you make slaves? I will tell you very simply, Kirk. You strip away their manhood and womanhood, right?
Yeah.
You strip that away, and then you replace it with something that will keep them in bondage. Here are two things that you can enslave any people: with religion and with the law. See, when the Europeans came to the U.S., I'm sorry, I have so many calls coming in, but we were not savages, okay? We were not savages. And Indian is a word that the Europeans gave us. Some of us were already here. Some of our ancestors did come from Africa as well. So we have to know our history and her story. A lot of us think that our ancestors weren't here already, but they were. My grandmother, my great-grandmother, and so forth, they were here. They were indigenous of this country, okay? They were indigenous of this country. But some of our ancestors did come from Africa. But when the settlers came, what happened? I told you what they brought with them, okay?
Yeah.
So we know what happened in the U.S. the Indians, Indios, that is what they called us. And I'm not being racist. I'm just giving you a oral history. Okay.
Yeah.
We love your country, but what happened throughout the years is they wanted more and more and more and more of the lands that they settled. You see, they didn't find it. Christopher Columbus did not find the U.S. He stumbled onto the U.S.
It was already there, wasn't it? There's people living there. Yeah,
right, exactly. So you can't find something that was already found. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't land on it. That's a difference. But the greedier that people became from other countries, the more now it's slavery. But slavery, that was a word that they created. But now let me explain. It is a mentality as well. If you have enough guns, if you have enough ammunitions, of course, if you just have spears on your side and they have muskets on their side, who do you think is going to win most of the wars? So what happens in every country that is taken over by settlers? This is what happens. They will come with gifts, okay? Yeah. And then after a couple of years, we're going to take more and more land, and now we're going to take it forcibly because we want these colonies. We want these lands. It's happened throughout time.
Yes.
And what do? Now, you're no longer going to follow the shamans. We're going to bring Christianity to you. Now, and you know what I say is I can prove this all the time. We're going to bring Christianity to your country. Okay, no. Okay, you're in Africa. You were studying the Ifa. You were following the Ifas. No, now we're going to bring Christianity, and we're going to do it forcibly. Okay, I'm not even going to get into religion. Yeah. What I'm saying to you is this. If another race of people or if another country of people take over your land, they will do it and they will repeatedly do it, and then they will put you in fear. It is a mentality. Slavery is a mentality. You can be a slave anywhere. You see what I'm saying? It is a mentality.
Yes.
If I tell you and your children and I beat you into subjugation for years and generations, you're beneath me.
Yes.
You're beneath me.
Yes.
You're beneath me. You're now my slave. It happened in Africa. That should have been the richest, most powerful country. What happened? Apartheid. How does that happen?
I know.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
with the demographics.
Crazy.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so, as a result, throughout the years, the generations, now we don't own our land anymore. We don't. Even our court system, it is a direct replica of England. From the black robes to the gavel to the everything that is set up in our court systems is a direct result from England.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not complaining. I'm saying this is our history.
Yeah.
So if you've been a people and you've known this or you've believed this, okay, because believe it or not, some of our people were not slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know that freaks you out. But you have to understand, if your people were already here, I have a documented book my family put together of our history, and it dates back to the early 1800s, right?
Yeah.
But it says that our very first foremother, she had blonde hair, and she was beaten, but she was brought on a ship, and she had Caucasian features, European features. That was our foremother. That is as far back as we could go.
Yeah.
But they said that they brought her on a ship, but now she doesn't sound African, does she?
No.
Okay. She was brought on a ship, and she was beaten, and she was sold different places, all right? But she ended up here in the U.S. So as you can see, a lot of people think that all of our ancestors are from Africa. Some of them are from Ireland. Some of them are from here.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's hard to make me believe that all of my people were slaves because some of my ancestors owned land. If you were a slave, you couldn't own land.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So I do a lot of teaching about this. What happened in our community? It's called African American. Do you know why?
Well, because I think everyone's from Africa.
Yes, let me tell you. When we were called white, black, nigger, Negro, African American, that is not your culture. That is what the Europeans named us, just like they named Indians. Indians did not call themselves Indians. The only true Indians are from India, and they will tell you that. We are the original Indians, okay? The word Indian in our country, it came from Indios. But what happened throughout the years, Kurt, is that in this country, when the Europeans came and they settled, the settlements, they did a good job. They did a very, very good job.
Oh, yeah.
Our people, they actually gave us our names now. We were not indigenous anymore. We became colors. We became adjectives. We became nouns, i.e., the word black. That didn't come from our people. White, nigger, Negro, African American. These were names that were given to us, okay? Those names actually mean you are no longer a person. You are a thing.
Yeah.
It's a very, very deep, complex issue that we have going on here. Now, we are now in a class. They put us in a category, African American, okay? Yeah. So what happened in our country? We had great jobs, later on. We started working. We had our civil rights. We had to fight to actually live in neighborhoods, which made no sense to me, because how can you fight to live where your people were born? So we couldn't go to the schools that were built. We couldn't live in certain areas.
Yeah.
But we were indigenous to this land. So you see, it is set up on, pardon my language, bullcrap. Yeah. It's set up on bullcrap to make you believe that you are still inferior.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah, and it's, yes, go ahead.
No, get it. I'm listening to you. I think it's really intriguing. Really intriguing.
Okay, so if you have to fight apartheid in your own country, if you have to fight civil rights in your own country, it is our country because we were born here. Let me tell you what I learned in England when my daughter was born there. She had to get 2 birth certificates, which I couldn't understand. She had to get a British birth certificate and an American, a U.S. birth certificate. I said, wait a minute, but she's an American child. They said, no. Her parents are American. She was born on British soil, which means she's a British citizen. She has dual citizenship.
Yeah. So
that got me to thinking, whoa. So if my people, if I'm born in the U.S., that makes me American, an heir to my own country. Yeah. That means just like in England, if I had to get her a British birth certificate, she has all rights to that land. Then why not the same for my country? Why do we have to fight for everything? Why do the police still shoot our children down in the streets? It was such an epidemic, Kurt, that I was going to so many burials of young boys, young girls that were shot by the police for doing nothing. If you would talk back to the police in the Chicago area, you would get shot.
Yeah.
If they didn't like you.
If you wasn't white. If you wasn't white.
Right, if you wore a hoodie, they take away, and this is a cold area. Of course our young men are going to wear hoodies. But then it became a game almost in the 60s, 70s. It became a game. Do you know that Martin Luther King, he actually came to Chicago and said that Chicago was the most racist city he had ever traveled to. And this is Martin Luther King. When he came to Chicago, they belted him with rocks because he walked down the wrong area. Still to this day, Chicago, it has dividing lines. We know where, pardon my language, Jewtown is. We know where Chinatown is. We know where, and guess what? I can't move to Chinatown.
Wow.
It's still the same. And they say that the United States is the land of the free and the home of the brave. It's not the land of the free.
No.
It's not.
No.
Because if it were free, I would be able to move anywhere I want and be safe and feel secure. I can't go to certain affluent areas and say, I want to buy a house here, no matter how much money I have. Because they actually have organizations in certain affluent areas in Chicago where they have to vote if you can move into their area or not.
Wow.
You see?
Really?
So, yes, I can go in a store, even till this day, and I'll be followed around. I will be followed as if I'm going to steal something. This is ridiculous that we are still fighting the same typical wars, which make no sense because this is our land.
Yeah.
Just as much as anyone else. And we get tired of it, and now we're speaking up about it. We should not have to fight for things that we deserve anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
The crazy thing is, if you listen to Martin Luther King, what did he say? I read it somewhere that America is, to protest for rights, and it just baffles me. Absolutely baffles me that it is still happening today. That it must be really deep rooted in the psyche of the culture for it to still be going on, and that's why if you listen, if a lot of people are, when you say, oh, really like the hip hop music and the underground, and they go, oh yeah, lots of swearing. That says, yeah, but you've got to understand where that's coming from and why they're using the language they're using, because they're trying to tell you a story of their struggles and frustrations, and that's what it is. That I won't use the N word because obviously that's not for me to use, but there's a lot of use of the word the N word. A lot you guys say cussing, but there's a reason for it, because that's the street, isn't it? That's the daily struggle. It's not made, you know what I mean? That's how it is.
Right. We have no filter. That's what it is. They call it a filter. We have no filter, and let me tell you why. It's so funny, the word nigger, and I'm just going to keep it real with you.
Yeah.
Now, our people will say, that's my nigger. That's my nigga. That's my nigger.
Yeah.
Now, Caucasians will say, that's my nigger.
Yeah.
Well, you can't use that. You can't use that word. You're not allowed to use that word because we've taken it back,
yes.
Which is crazy to me, because if people know the actual, meaning of the word and where it came from, they would be amazed. Okay? But here's the thing, is that our people were tired. In every country, it's not just the U.S. That's the thing. It's not just in the U.S. It's in every country that you find racism. Yeah. That you find colonizers. I talk to my people in Jamaica. I mean, that's why I built the Global Family. It's because guess what? You can actually, and it's a beautiful thing, but you can bring people together with music. I said, and I prayed on this. I said, what can I do? What can I use to bring people together like never before? And then actually I got a visual picture of We Are the World. Do you remember when they were singing in the studio, right? And so I remembered all the different races, all the different colors. I said, whoa. I said, what if we do this on a broader scale? What if before you know it, they forget that they're different? But they realize that they're so much the same. And that if we start this, if we build something that they love, they will start showing love to each other. And it won't matter what, and I call it an avatar, like on the movie Avatar. It won't matter what color your shell is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It won't matter, because you're going to be doing it out of love, because love is colorless. It's so colorless. Because I cannot hold you responsible, Kirk, for what your ancestors did. You can't hold mine responsible either. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have to change this world for our children.
Exactly.
Because it happened. It happened. Apartheid happened. Racism happened. Slavery happened. It happened. But now what do we do for our children? What do we do for them? That's what I'm about. It's not about the music. Music was one tool for me. And now you know.
And and music transcends. I think genuinely transcends language, and because I like some of the Bhangra music, some of the Bollywood Bhangra music. I don't understand half the words they're saying in it, but the beat's there. I could dance to it, and it makes me feel good. So do you know, it's good music. And just picking up on that point as what you were saying about. You can't blame my ancestors and I can't blame your ancestors. I can give you a little insight to that, where it's not the same, but it is very similar. I was on, like I said to you before, I worked for a Mexican company, and there was people from all nationalities, and we was on a course, and we was in this. We was doing something, and I think I went to the bar, and my next door neighbour in the apartments where we were staying in the colleges, because I stood at Stanford, was German. So I got talking to him. Hans, his name was, and I think we went out one night when we was in France, and I says, "Oh, should we go for a drink?" And one was from Berlin. I think we're both from Berlin. Sorry. And he turned around and says, "What, you want to have a drink with us?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" And he said, "Because we're German." And I said, "Yeah, wow. What's that got to do with anything?" He says, "Well, the war." I went, "Are you serious?" I says, was you fighting there?" And he went, "No." I says, "I wasn't fighting there. Might have been my granddad, and it might have been your granddad. That's a long time ago. So let's both have a drink, because we're doing the same thing, and we're friends. We can't. It wasn't us that did that. You didn't do it, and I didn't do it. I think you're okay. If you think I'm okay, if you don't think I'm okay, we won't have a drink." You know what I mean? It's like, and so that it's a very similar thing, isn't it? So there's still people are embarrassed in Germany about what happened in the Second and First World Wars, and some of the atrocities went on there. I mean, we should never forget those things, and neither should people that have been oppressed should never forget apartheid or what's happened in the States. But there has to be a point where the two sides, if you like, sort of come to a mutual understanding that, hang on a minute, what do we do going forward? Because if you don't stop it, it's just going to carry on and get worse and worse. And you know what? I don't know. I can talk all day, but we're all on this planet for a short period of time, and wouldn't it be better if we could all, if there wasn't the greed and corruption that we've got, and we could all live together, and if a community globally came together and had that way of thinking, and that could be so powerful to everyone that they touch and they come into contact with, and it'd be bigger than anybody. Because if you look at what happened in India as well, what Gandhi did in India, because India's the same. India was in the Raj with the UK. I mean, the UK's got such a lot to be really, really like question what it's done in the past. But that was one man, and what one man was doing, because I researched a lot of stuff. What he was doing, what Gandhi did, he was in the fields, he was in the paddy fields, he was talking to people in the communities, he was going round and he was quietly gaining that support.
Yes.
And what he did, well, India.
And I mean, even Martin, both Martin Luther King, and but they showed that love is universal. When Malcolm X, he went to Mecca. And he didn't believe in the races mixing, and then when he went to Mecca, he said, "Whoa, wait a minute, they're non-melanated, they're Caucasians here. I didn't expect that." But they treated him like he was a brother, and he wasn't ready for that. You see what I'm saying? Like, he couldn't believe what he was seeing, the brotherhood of all different colors coming together to worship Allah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can be done. We see it's a bigger picture than what we think, Kurt. It's a lot that's going on in this world that we don't see the signs. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's about racial cleansing a lot of times.
Yeah.
And, I teach about that too, how there are organizations that want to get rid of certain colors, certain peoples. We'll talk about that another time, but
we will.
I know that with love, we can change this world, because our children, they're going to look at us one day and say, "You destroyed our countries," or "Thank you. Thank you for what you did."
Brilliant. And do you know what? I think that's a beautiful way to end a very interesting, open and honest interview. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I think you're an amazing individual. I don't know if I can use the word queen because I don't know, but to me you're a queen, and I think what you do for your people, your artists, is amazing. And it's a pleasure to share my journey and your journey together.
And thank you so much, and congratulations on 1 year with Dougie Stone Radio. We are very, very proud of you, Kurt.
Thank you, Teresa. Well, you have a great day, whatever you're planning to do, and we'll speak soon. And I know we've got to do the interview too, because I think we've got too much more to cover. Don't you?
No problem. Anytime. You just name the time.
Thank you for that. Cheers.
All right. Have a great one. Bye, Kurt.
Yeah, so there you go. Hope you enjoyed the interview, people. These go out on Dougie Stone Radio, but when we put them onto Mixcloud, so if you're listening on Mixcloud, iTunes, wherever, please subscribe and you get the latest versions. If you want to be a guest on my podcast, which goes out across the globe, because I'm freaking global, why don't you drop us a line? contact@dougiestoneradio.com. Please go and give Dougie Stone Radio on Facebook a like. This is brilliant. And if you want to check out all our shows, and if you're an artist, you want to submit your tracks to the radio station, go to dougiestoneradio.com, the artist submission tab, and upload your MP3s. Please send us a picture, 600 by 600 as well. And if we like it, we'll get it on the station. Anyway, that's the end of this episode of Dougie Stone Radio. Be sure to subscribe to get the next exciting episode. See ya!
The Dougie Stone Show.